we're going to be able to see the Star Wars galaxy for the first time through the eyes of these kids, which is something very special.
And maybe it'll be a little bit of a rebirth for some of us older, jaded Star Wars fans that we're going to rekindle the fire.
Welcome, everyone, to Krypton to Alderaan. I'm Joey, your Star Wars lover, and with me is Royish Goodlooks, your Star Wars song guy. Will that continue to be true after this episode? We'll see.
Hello, Joey. Hello, podcast.
Hello. And this episode we'll be discussing the official trailer for Skeleton Crew that was released this past week. The show premieres on December 3rd with a 2-episode premiere. We're really looking forward to reviewing this show. We are really looking forward to getting back on a regular recording schedule for Krypton to Alderaan. It has been a long time. We took a little bit of a break, but we're really excited to be back and be here with you and have you be here with us. And we hope you're all excited about that too.
Joey, I've missed you. I've missed the pod and I've missed the comment section. So that's why we're here. We can't wait to talk Skeleton Crew and more Star Wars with you over the next month or so.
Yeah, and let us know what you thought of the trailer in the comment section. Let's have a conversation about it in the comment section because I think we're going to hit on some hot topics here today.
Brace for impact.
So let's punch it.
So we already did an episode talking about the teaser trailer. We were both very excited for it. This new trailer, when it dropped, I was equally as excited. Nice, wasn't expecting it. Clicked on it immediately, having my cup of coffee in the morning. The first thing I noticed was the music. So we get this like 80s pulsing synthesizer, and I said, all right, they're going for a vibe here. But as the trailer goes on, I realize this is a real world pop song. This is not an original piece composed for the trailer. I could not pay attention to anything in the trailer after that. It completely distracted me from the story, from the visuals, from the dialogue, and just didn't feel like Star Wars to me. The music is obviously very important to all of us. I have a lot more thoughts about it, but what did you feel about the music?
So I did not watch the trailer immediately when it dropped. I had to wait a little bit to catch it. But in waiting, you and I had already talked. You didn't give anything away, but I had known that Major Tom somehow was part of the trailer.
Somehow Major Tom was in the trailer.
Before I watched the trailer. So it's funny because I was really expecting to not like that. I was expecting to go into it thinking, why did they turn a Star Wars trailer into one of these like modern action trailers where there's some reworking of a classic rock song or an 80s song that's like cookie cutter? That's what they do in every single trailer nowadays. And it gets really annoying to me. And so that's really what I was expecting going into watching the trailer. But honestly, maybe it's because I was expecting it to irk me. It didn't really irk me. And I think there is a fair amount of generosity that I can give to it here in that Star Wars has played around with pop music for a long time, right? Like the special editions have Jedi Rocks in it. It's a Huddy's version of Major Tom. It's not the original recording of Major Tom. It's not in, quote unquote, English or basic. So it kind of was made for the world. It made the trailer entertaining to me. It didn't really take me out of it.
If this is just for the trailer, I'll be able to forget about it in time. But this reminds me a lot of like in Solo when they took the Imperial March and made it diegetic for an Imperial recruitment video. And that to me crosses a line. It ruins the illusion for me. That would make great temp music if you're looking to set the 80s vibe and you want it to feel like this pumped up adventure. Then use that as inspiration to write something new. Is Jedi Rocks a parody of another song? Or is that an original song written by Max Rebo? Or like Marva's March? That song, it exists in the universe. And that's even cooler than Major Tom, which is not written by a Star Wars person. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I think it was a disservice to say, we're just going to parody the song and not give an actual artist a chance to write their own Star Wars pop music. That's what makes Star Wars special to me, is we are, in fact, in the galaxy far, far away. But I get they wanted to set up the vibe. And yeah, it felt like Guardians of the Galaxy, where music is a huge part of that. But guess what? That takes place on Earth or near Earth. in our universe or in a similar universe to our own. And I hope that the rest of the show, even if the music is still reminiscent of the trailer, that we can get a little closer to some of the Star Wars themes, which I think a lot of the other shows and movies have done.
I guess I would say I would be surprised if the music takes control of the show. Maybe it'll be playing in a cantina, or we'll see a band playing it and singing in Huddies, maybe, which I think could be a fun aspect of it. I also think it's interesting because we've talked on this podcast before about how in other Star Wars trailers, they have used the classic Star Wars themes that then don't make it into the movie, or vice versa. We go back to having this conversation about music in Star Wars a lot, which I think is very interesting. And from my perspective, it's kind of fun that they're playing around with this. Again, I was pre-turned off by the idea of having like this more modern trailer vibe, but it didn't take me out of the trailer. And I do think that it feels like some amount of rebranding being done, which we're also talking a lot about how Star Wars is growing and it's allowed to like continue to grow, which I think is great. It's just, there's a little bit of a whiplash reaction here when this particular music comes up on the trailer and we have the big gold letters like hard transitioning onto the screen, and it looks very modern and action movie-y, which is not something I expect from a Star Wars trailer.
I made it a mission this morning to rewatch the trailer to try and actually see the story a little bit better by watching it on mute. And then I said, maybe I'll listen to it with the classic score in the background and see how I feel about it. So I just randomly pulled up Yoda's theme, and it syncs almost perfectly with the beats in the trailer. And add a totally different reaction to it because of the nostalgia for that song. You want nostalgia? Why Major Tom? Let's go for some Star Wars themes. And it also like made the visuals feel even more Star Wars. So you're setting one vibe with the 80s music, but you can still set a vibe with the classic Star Wars music, one not being better than the other, but one certainly worked better for me. And stay tuned for my I Fixed the Trailer music for Skeleton Crew on the Royish Good Looks 2 channel coming soon. Did you happen to try watching it on mute or with music?
I did. You sent me Yoda's theme and said, watch the trailer on mute. And so I did because I wanted to make you happy. And yeah, it syncs up really well. It was a really fun, like I had watched the trailer right before on its own, the trailer itself, and then immediately watched it muted with Yoda's theme. And it did sync up really well. It was a really fun little experiment.
I don't want to say that it should have been that, because people would say,
Sure.
why is it Yoda's theme? We also get mad about that. But there is something to like the long swelling strings while a spaceship is flying, while someone's saying like, we need some hope in the galaxy. And
Sure.
you hear a beautiful melody that's maybe not just kind of a, like you said, a cookie cutter pop song. Gives you a different emotion. So, man, I could go on all day about this, Joey. Thank you for letting me get a little bit of my emotions out.
No problem.
But let's move on from the music. Let's actually talk about how it looked in the story and everything else within the trailer. So, music aside, let's talk about it.
This trailer got me more hyped than I already was. I'm really looking forward to this show. I think I'm really going to like it, but just seeing the expanse of it, the characters, pirates, adventure, all the aliens we get to, everything looks great. Like when they're in that cantina and we get to see all the aliens and we actually get to see them interact with the aliens. They're not just like background characters, right? They're actually confronting them and asking them questions and serving them food and then chasing them, and their pirates are hunting them. It looks super fun, but it also looks beautiful. The scenes where they're flying the ship and the ship's like coming out of the clouds, whatever planet that is, they're going to like the junkyard planet or whatever. The droid looks and sounds great. I think that's Nick Frost. It's really checking a lot of boxes for me. Maybe not in like a traditional, this is what I love about Star Wars sense, because I do think it's, from my perspective, it's very different. We are going Amblin style, we're going E.T., we're going Stranger Things. There's never really been a Star Wars like this that I can think of. So we are doing this little kind of rebranding, but it does look like something for everyone. And it looks like I'm really going to enjoy it. How did you feel watching the trailer when you actually paid attention to it, not just the music?
Yeah, again, I think I was able to take more from it by watching it on mute with just something else in the background. It made me focus a little bit more. I love the sort of like visual sheen over it. It's both clean and, like you said, kind of modern, like not just like the trailer itself, but like the world feels modern, this New Republic era, but still has a little bit of that Star Wars grit, like the ship buried in the ground, the spaceport or the cantina where they are. So it's doing a good balance of like old and new there. It reminds me a lot of the Bad Batch, where there's classic iconography, but then like when they bring in that tentacle monster in the ocean, and you're like, wow, the colors are so beautiful. Like the neighborhood that the kids are riding their bikes around or whatever, like that looks bright and saturated and vibrant. That feels inviting. For a franchise that talks about hope so much, that neighborhood looks very hopeful. Those children feel very hopeful. And so visually that's connecting for me. I think it's going to correlate well for how much we love the Bad Batch, that maybe some of that will feel similar here, not only just having the children as the main cast, but I think there's some parallels with the visuals there for me that are going to connect.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, even in the trailer, things just look beautiful. And the little like Jedi light bright thing was just so like, even that in itself just looked like there were pieces of the vibe and aesthetic that I think looked really good. But I really love what you're saying. We get the clean, fresh, this is the face of the new republic. Everyone's doing well and they're prospering and they're living in this development. I know people were like turned off by the housing development in Star Wars, but I don't have any problem with that. I think that's just the way that it would work. But we also get to see the lived in, what George Lucas wanted the galaxy to be and to feel to us, which like once the kids get off that planet, we start to see the very lived in aspect of the galaxy and of Star Wars. And we're ripping the kids away from that, from their like cushy, clean lives and shooting them off into the galaxy, into the lived in life, which is, again, I think part of the rebranding, whether I'm reading too much into this or not, but it also feels like it's going to be taken us. We're going to be able to see the Star Wars galaxy for the first time through the eyes of these kids, which is something very special. I mean, how many times have you and I talked about like how cool it would be to introduce someone to Star Wars and seeing them see it for the first time? And we're going to get that with these kids in a meta way.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that.
Dude, this is Lightyear, right? This is the movie that Andy saw that he wanted to get the Buzz Lightyear toy, right? Like, exactly. So that's going to be pretty fun if that's the way that they've approached writing the story, or if that's the way that you're going to approach watching the story and connecting with it. Yeah, I love that like their neighborhood feels like a utopia and that's like new. That's like the post-Empire era, right? The ideal society. But they've got this ship that's buried in their backyard. Like it's built on top of the old remnants. There's something still there and the kids discover it and that connects them with the old world. He's fantasizing about the Jedi, right? It's an old Jedi temple. That's so cool. Buried in their backyard. These kids are going to discover that and it's going to be their first steps into a larger world. Maybe for some new, younger Star Wars fans, that will be a parallel for them. And maybe it'll be a little bit of a rebirth for some of us older, jaded Star Wars fans that we're going to rekindle the fire.
Yeah, I'm really excited for all of that. I'm excited for everything you just said, like reintroducing us into this world, introducing maybe a new generation into this world, bringing more people in. Again, it's like we're expanding access to Star Wars at this point.
You mentioned like the text coming up on screen, like from the directors of Spider-Man and whatever the text that comes up on screen to sell the trailer. That almost could just say, when young kids discover hope for the first time, or right. whatever moniker you want to put on it, like rather than selling the show from the people that created it. Again, Mick, that's kind of a problem with the trailer, with this real world pop music and these real world people. No, just sell me on the story. I don't care who made it. I just want to believe in. That would be interesting if that's how they kind of framed it too. Maybe in the next trailer, because that's how Acolyte was, right? There was the interjecting text, right? No one is safe from the truth. Putting that in the trailer sets you up for what to expect from the show. They nailed it with that one concerning the Acolyte. They don't do that for every trailer.
Let's do an episode about trailers, because I do think that from a trailer production standpoint, this was not the best.
It was different.
Like we're getting the weird trailer production stuff, like saying from the creators of on the screen.
I mean, Star Wars starts without any credits to begin with. It just jumps right into the story.
I do think that I would feel better about it if something like that were diegetic. Like you're saying, like after the fall of the Empire, but not everything is what it seems. These kids on it, stuff like that could be, like you're saying, could be popping up on the screen instead of from the creators of Spider-Man. I think that's a problem with trailers. I do not know when the last time I saw a trailer that I was like, that was a good trailer. The cuts are weird. Sometimes the dialogue is not what the character is saying, but they wanted to show the scene. In the modern day, trailers are not wowing me, but that's like a trailer production thing where with this particular show, we're trying to talk more about like how we feel, what we think the vibes are, how is it going to play to what we love about Star Wars, and not necessarily like we talked a lot about the music, but I think they make it harder to get into things when the trailers are set up like this or kind of have these flaws that we point out instead of just like being able to focus on the content, which is what we're really excited about. Because this was the content of this trailer or the content of the show that they showed in this trailer excited me, but the way they showed it did not excite me.
Joey, the Star Wars format guy.
Star Wars trailer format guy. Yeah.
I don't know if I've made this clear, but I really do love the visuals and the story that they seem to be setting up. But you're right, the presentation, you know, judging a book by its cover, like it's hard to get over that. From a business perspective, I can understand if they're like, this is a better way to market it. But it would be nice if it was, like you said, it's just an amazing trailer, which I think it is cut really well. I don't think it's cut weirdly. There's the nice sweeping shots of the ships and everyone running together. I think the pacing is really nice. Like I said, it totally lines up with Yoda's theme. You know, that's 40 years old and it works perfectly over it. So there's something to be said that the actual trailer itself is great, but some of the formatting we have to look past, or some of us do. I don't know if if anybody agrees with me, please leave your comments below. We would love to hear what you thought about the music, the visuals, the story. Are you excited for Skeleton Crew coming out next month? Are you excited for the return of Krypton to Alderaan? Leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Let's keep the conversation going. Make sure to subscribe and tune in next time for more nerdy pop culture, but mostly Star Wars. Thanks for listening to the show today. I've been Royce.
I've been Neil.
And we've been
Krypton 2. That really clean looking housing development. I like the white houses and the lawns and the little moped looking thing. Krypton.